this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Caligoan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And this time I was made to watch Love Actually.
Yes, I am giving him all the rom-coms and all the favorite Christmas movies. This feels like the 30-something woman's starter pack.
Yes.
Love Actually, we just need to give him some White Claw and I don't know what, some nail art or something, and you'll be on the way. I feel like some of the movies that I show you in this podcast are like educating you on the messages that women are given.
Sure.
I don't think the ones that we've watched so far have really done that, but in the future there's going to be some, because you didn't have sisters, your mom didn't talk about this stuff, but like This is why women have effed up ideas about romance and things, because movies teach us that. So,
Oh yeah.
This, I would say, is not that bad. There has been some backlash against it, but we'll talk about that.
I can see why.
Yes, I'm sure you can definitely see it. So if you're not familiar, this is the 2003 ensemble Christmas movie. It's one of those where there's several different storylines and everybody knows everybody somehow, so they're all loosely connected. And some people figure in different storylines in different ways, that kind of thing. So it's hard to say who it's starring, but it's a lot of British actors that you've heard of. Colin Firth, Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson, Keira Knightley, Martin Freeman, Liam Neeson, Chiwetel, I can't say his last name.
Oh yeah.
Bill Nighy, lots and lots of. Rowan Atkinson in a nice little mysterious cameo.
Yeah.
So lots of storylines. What did you think of this just before? Because it's hard to pick one thread because they're all woven together. So there's no logical way to go through this. But what did you think of it? What did you know about it going into it? What did you think?
I didn't know anything about it. I knew the name.
Yeah.
And I knew that it had a bunch of British actors in it. Hugh Grant.
Oh yeah.
I think you left out.
Yeah, I did.
I knew it had a bunch of British actors in it, and I had heard some of the pushback in recent days. Recent years, whatever, to it.
Mm-hmm.
What did I think of it? It was fine. Like it was good. It I laughed a couple times, but it was a solid, C+, C+.
C+? What? You laughed enough that it's definitely a B.
That's why it's a C+. C. This is why I'm willing to push it to C+.
Oh, good grief. Okay.
It was fine. I think there are a lot of things that I think are silly about it from storytelling perspectives and other reasons. But it was fine. One of the things that I've been trying to learn to do after growing up and kind of becoming a movie snob in my early 20s, I've said many times I worked in a video store. Mm-hmm. I curated the AFI Top 100 when that came out. In our video store, organized them all into a display and took it upon myself to watch as many of them as I could. Went to a lot of art house fair, saw a lot of French films and things in the theaters.
Oh, geez.
There was in the town where we met, there was this little theater called the Janus, and then it got taken down, and a much bigger theater got put up kind of in its place, but they tried to stay true to it by having this very small, but they tried to stay true to the spirit of the Janus by having this little section where, number one, you could buy wine and beer, which was cool.
Yeah, I did take advantage of that.
But number two had two maybe 20-seat theaters that showed small movies. I saw Fahrenheit 9/11 there. I saw Amelie. I saw Novocaine. I saw a bunch of those movies when they say coming to selected cities, and it doesn't come to many cities. It was coming, a lot of them were coming there, at the Janus, I saw several movies like that. Beyond the Mat, which is a wrestling documentary, it kind of continued that tradition. And I've been coming down off of that movie snobbery for the last 10 years, 15 years. And one of the things that I try to do when I'm coming down off that movie snobbery is watch a movie or accept a movie on its own terms.
Yeah.
Not going into it like, you know, with like a high-end critic, like, oh, well, let's see what they're doing here. Like, oh, that's tired old storytelling. We've seen that before. You know, just like, hey, what is this movie? What's it about? And I find that I enjoy myself far more. I look at these like guys and gals on Twitter that are just so like eviscerating like modern action movies and modern thrillers and modern movies in general as just trite or whatever. And they're just like, it was a fun movie. What like, come on, like just go into it as a popcorn flick. Just take it as it comes and you'll enjoy it a lot more. But of course that's the curse of youth, you know, like you think you know everything. And by the time you do actually know everything, no one cares to listen to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you have, depending on how many past episodes of this you've listened to, you may or may not agree with this. I am rather credulous about a lot of movies. Like, if I'm supposed to like a character, I like them. If I'm supposed to hate them, I hate them. And I'm just like, okay, that's the story. That's what's happening. Now, you've heard me pick apart lots of movies and point out inconsistencies and this and that and, you know, blah, 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 blah. So you may not believe me when I say this, but I feel like a lot of, I think my default position is to sort of take movies as they come. So I can recognize that there's parts of this that are problematic, or at least are problematic now in 2021. And there are definitely stories in this that are weaker than others, but it is what it is. And I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. Yeah.
I
think though, hang on. I think most movie critics, I think, are able to do that. Like, even, you know, Roger Ebert is gonna, like, he can look at super highbrow stuff and then look at silly stuff and be like, it's intended to be silly, and it's silly.
Well, he ain't looking at nothing currently, but
Roger Ebert could at one point, his legacy would.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to say there before I interrupt you, I'm sorry, was unfortunately the format of this podcast lends us both to straying off of that center line because it's what this is about. We can both sit here and say, oh, we accept movies on their own terms, credulous, whatever. And then we will spend the next 45 minutes deconstructing a movie and on its political themes and its misogyny or whatever. Yes. Because that's what this is. So a lot of times you might come away from an episode of this thinking, oh, they hated that. But most of the time it's just like, yeah, it was fine. Like, yeah, it was a good movie, average, maybe slightly above average. Or, you know, I think a better than a scoring system for me is just like, this movie did what it was trying to do. Yeah. Like, you know, the greatest baseball players aren't always the ones that hit the home run. Sometimes they're just trying to move a guy from first base to second base. Mm-hmm. And if they do that enough, they're in the Hall of Fame for doing that. Like, sometimes a movie is just trying to scratch a little itch, romantic comedy, give you 30 to 45 minutes of fun out of the hour and a half runtime or whatever. No, I mean, this movie, that's like 30 minutes of fun out of the 2-hour runtime. Oh, no. I'm kidding. Yeah. So yeah, it was solid. Yeah. C+.
Let's get to what to me is the integral question to ask you. Is this in fact a Christmas movie for you?
It's tough, right? Because my litmus test, which I may or may not have articulated in past episodes.
Well, you did. Really, I don't know if you did it well.
Really, it is, what does this movie look like, and how much work is it to fix the plot if you just take Christmas out? Mm-hmm. Set this on the weeks leading up to Easter, and what's different? You could still have a play that they're preparing for. You could do this leading up to Thanksgiving. You can still have a play that they're preparing for. You can still have you can shuffle some of the other stuff around, like the gift giving in a certain storyline is not necessarily needed.
Okay, you know, I really thought that was a gimme question, that you were going to be like, yes, it's definitely a Christmas movie.
No, I'm saying, like, do you want an analysis of it? This is my analysis, right? Okay. Like, now all of that stuff is easy to remove and to fix, but the bigger part of that question is, what theming do you lose, and what broader strokes do you lose that aren't simple material details? And I think in the case of this movie, you do lose enough to say that setting it during Christmas is part of its structure.
Yes. Can I just say, I do not want a song that goes, Easter is all around me. Like, no.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. No. I mean, yeah, there are a few plot points here that are, that are tough, but, you can't set the Santa Claus any other time of the year. You can't set Santa Claus the movie, Ernest Saves Christmas. Like, you can't.
So now I know where your bar is for this. Okay.
Right. So, to me that, this kind of becomes like, I think for something to be a whatever movie, it needs to be celebrating that. Like, if a movie has some slight theming towards something, does it make it that movie? Like, maybe, maybe not. Like, there's a test. Like, is this a gimme? Yeah, I don't know. Like, Christmas is a big part of the plot, but also Christmas is like, it's easily removed from the majority of this movie without affecting much of the plot, but it affects much of the underlying symbolism and things like that go on.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a different answer than I was expecting, but okay. All right.
But ultimately the jury says yes.
Okay. Thank you. There's that. All right. What was there a storyline that stood out to you? Either your favorite, your least favorite, these people are great, these people are terrible?
I think the Kid Goes to America is only there for laughs. Yeah. And it's like effective enough at that. Like, that's like a little bit too much, American screwball, hornball. Like, that's a little bit too much. Like, what's popular right now? The American pies.
Well, and we
need some screwball thing.
Yeah. Like, if you watch this today, you would not get January Jones, Alicia Cuthbert, Shannon Elizabeth, Denise, they were prime examples of the American.
2003 hotties, like 100%. Yeah.
I think the guy has a funny point when he says any British accent is a cute British accent in America. And I'm like, yes, that's true.
Yeah. Because even the worst British accents.
Yeah. I don't know what the British accent is that is the least attractive.
Yeah.
Has the worst connotations.
Like Geordie or something.
I don't know. I couldn't even identify most of them, but whatever that is still considered sexy in the US.
I mean, anything. It's America is, well, here's the thing. America is so bland when it comes to that sort of stuff that literally any accent, a Southerner in New York, a New Yorker in the South, a Midwesterner in California, it all works. Everyone's like, oh, your accent. I like that accent.
And the things that people consider accents are actually pretty funny. So I, at this point, have lived in the South since I was 22. So for half my life.
So 10 years. 10 years is all.
Right. Exactly. People from the Midwest now say to me, "Oh, you have a Southern accent," and I'm like,
"A Southern accent?"
I assure you, I do not. I do not.
You picked up a Southern accent while you're at the...
Yeah, but it's something like, I say soda now instead of pop, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so Southern!" Like, no.
You're gonna go get on the couch too,
right? Yeah. I'm going to take an umbrella and go buy some insurance. And you're like, no, I'm not. I wish I had a little bit of an accent. I do not. But yeah, the things that people take as accents are funny.
Yeah. And Americans are just boring. Like, and I mean, in Britain, I'm sure you're encountering different accents all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small country and it's so varied in the accents. And here you can go, like in North Carolina, you can drive a long way before you stop finding people who at least have something in common with your accent.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to drive pretty far out of, Northern Virginia, 5-6 hours to get away from any Southern drawl at all.
Yeah. But anyway, that storyline was just comic relief.
Oh, 100%.
I think Denise Richards ends up with a hotter Brit than Shannon Elizabeth does, because she ends up with his friend who is more attractive and smarter.
Yes.
And has a better job too. Oh, okay. Here's the thing I thought. So Colin he's a cater waiter. He does all these things and he's hitting on people and failing and says, I'm going to go to America and everyone will love me and I'll have lots of sex. And he does. At the beginning of the movie, he's shown going in an office and delivering sandwiches from like a wicker basket, which is what Gwyneth Paltrow does in Sliding Doors. Is this a London thing where they just deliver your sandwiches and it's like the exact same basket?
He works for the same place. Yeah. Like there's someone who's fan theoried a universe where both of these are. Right. The Sliding Doors is set in the Love Actually universe. And
in neither of those movies does anyone pay them for the sandwiches. So if you work in an office in London, does someone show up with a wicker basket and just give you a sandwich for no reason?
Presumably you've called the order in to like the local deli, that's on the block.
No, I need London to be a place where muffins just show up.
Flirtatious British men show up with baskets of baked goods.
Yes. And you might say, well, he's in his 20s. He wouldn't flirt with me in her 40s, but he flirted with that lady at the wedding with the god-awful hair. So I think he has very low standards. I think he would give me a muffin.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, what I had written, the first line in my notes is Carl is crap.
You realize I don't know any of these people's names.
Carl is the sexy Spaniard. He's the one that Laura Linney is in love with. Okay. So, and this, and so, you say love, you think romantic love, and it's the rom-com. And the most notable stories in this movie are romance stories, but I think the different stories are showing different types of love. And Laura Linney is the main character in one of these stories. She works at some kind of nonprofit. Company? I don't know. Yeah. Alan Rickman is her boss.
Several of the characters work there.
Yeah. And Alan Rickman says to her, you're clearly in love with Carl. Do something about it, which is completely an inappropriate conversation for your boss to have with you. And he tells her, everybody knows this, including Carl. So do something about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's first of all, like, no, if she's been keeping this to herself, she does not want to know that he knows about it. Like, Anyway.
Now, because of that conversation, I immediately read Alan Rickman's character as gay.
Really?
Yeah, because of that conversation.
Interesting. Okay.
And also the way in which he looks oblivious / disinterested in his secretary's flirting.
Oh, God. Well, that's a whole other.
Until you know that he's weird. That's a whole. Yeah,
we're going to get to that next.
Until you know that he's not.
Yeah.
That he's straight.
Well, yeah. So I don't know how. I don't know why, but Carl is. He's played by Rodrigo Santoro, who I think was in some movie with Diane Lane where he was a hottie. Like, he's just a Hollywood hottie.
Yeah, we need a vaguely ethnic guy to take his shirt off.
Yeah, I mean, good taste, Laura Linney. And she's playing an American in this movie, and there's never really an explanation for why she's American living in the UK. But it turns out she has this brother who is mentally ill to some degree and lives in a group home, and he calls her all the time.
Yeah.
At some point, she and Carl hook up. We're not entirely sure, is Carl actually interested in her, or is he just like, well, this is an easy lay? They're at her apartment making out, and her brother calls her twice and wants her to come over, and she does, because her this is sibling love, this is family love, this is her truest love. And Carl just skips out and drops the subject entirely. Sure. I'm sorry, Carl, you suck. You are awful.
Yeah, I think Carl...
what in the world?
Well, he doesn't get a fair shake because there's not that much... I think the focus for her character shifts, but also I think he is horribly miscast. I think this actor is because I read the part and the way that he interacts with her as absolutely genuine. But then, like you said, the way things go and the fact that he's a hottie makes it seem like he was only interested in the sex. Like, he is very, he comes off as very reserved and, is coming by her desk every night to say goodnight to her. And he wears glasses. Yeah. Like, I think he is just incredibly miscast. I feel like there's a better casting that is still like an attractive man, but like, people don't walk around looking like that, especially guys who are like the creative director of some, firm. Like that is a fasted body. Like that's like 3%, 2% body fat. Like that is like an unhealthy amount of definition on him to just be walking around living his life. Like people don't look like that.
Where does he fit in the time to work out?
People look like Martin Freeman's character when he has his shirt off.
Yeah.
People look like that. when they have their shirt off, even when they could within 2 or 3 weeks look like that guy.
Okay, so who would you have cast as Carl then?
I think Martin Freeman would have been a much better, if you know,
really?
like just as far as like a bookish, nerdish sort of. I mean, like he's Jim. Like, I forget his name.
Tim.
Yeah. Like that's perfect. Like that's the perfect type for that.
Well,
like,
but I think Martin Freeman doesn't run away at. You're like, oh, she has this commitment to her brother.
But I'm saying just like they both are giving off like bookish, nerdy vibes.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that those two would go together very well. And if you needed someone who was also playing Spanish or whatever, you know, just find someone. I don't know. No one comes to mind, but somebody like him, even a 10 years prior Hugh Grant in that role, just like a sort of awkward, but, you know, still attractive to her kind of, you know, guy.
I don't know. Well, the whole thing, it just breaks my heart because Laura Linney is almost everything I've seen her in. I've not seen her in Ozark, so maybe not that, but she's an angel.
Oh yeah, she's great.
She's lovely. She deserves all the hot sex with Spaniards and all the love from not mentally ill brothers. And I'm just I'm like, what? Why are you at your brother's beck and call? I just it's heartbreaking. Like I love my brother, but if he's in a group home and he is like trying to attack me and nurses, I'm like, I'm gonna go have sex with a Spaniard. You can wait till I come back. Yes. Well, you can find someone else to perform your exorcism.
Good to know where your priorities are.
I mean, he's like trying to attack.
So clearly there's a lot going on there. And and that's the thing. Like, I think not everybody in this movie. So probably my favorite thing about this movie is that not everybody in this movie gets a happy ending.
Yeah.
Like a storybook happy ending.
Yeah.
They all, I would say they all get the ending that they need at the place they are in their lives where their character is.
Yeah.
But not everybody gets a storybook ending. And I think her storybook ending is the hot Spaniard that goes to the hospital with her instead of abandoning her like he did. Like I was fully ready to see like him in the background or, you know, her to say, oh, this is Carl, you know, or whatever. And like then that was clear that he was not the one. Like
he is trash.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
What would it? I'm very disappointed.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, she needs someone else. Like he's not the one for her because her happy ending is going to be different.
Maybe Tony, the porn director, Colin's friend, can dump Denise Richards and go with, I don't know, like someone in this movie, please find Laura Linney and make her happy because she deserves to be happy. So
yes.
Okay, yeah. So Alan Rickman.
Yes.
And the secretary. What the? She's scary.
What do you mean?
She's terrifying. She has no chill whatsoever. So first of all, I don't. So she's in her like 20s, and he's in like in his 50s. Alan Rickman's not the type of guy you have a crush on at work. I think. I don't know.
Well, I think I don't think she's attracted to him. I think she's attracted to power.
Oh, maybe.
You know, like she seems like one of those types.
But she is not subtle at all.
Oh, no. Red flags. All fail over. Attraction. Like all red over. Flags all over the place.
He puts her in charge of planning the Christmas party. And she is going to have it at her friend's art gallery. And she says to him, oh, it's lovely. Full of dark corners for doing dark deeds.
Right.
And she's sitting facing him, and then she spreads her legs apart. Yes, and she's wearing this very short skirt. And he just kind of looks, to his credit, he's like, oh my God, don't look.
He makes an Alan, she doesn't, but he should make an Alan Rickman noise like, I see.
Yeah, and backs away. She's just doing a lot of things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And to his credit, he finds this weird and unsettling and uncomfortable, which he should.
Sure.
And then she says she wants him to get her a Christmas present. And then his resolve crumbles. And he does. He gets her a necklace. And his wife, Emma Thompson, finds it in his pocket and thinks that it's for her. And it's not. And Emma's not happy.
Yes, as you would be.
Yeah.
As you wouldn't be.
Right. And there's a beautiful, a lovely, really well done scene where she has to go, and she figures this out on Christmas Eve, and she has to go in the bedroom and cry a little bit and then compose herself and go back out. And, and I just,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing, right? Like, it's that, like, I'm not going to say I sympathize with Alan Rickman's character, but I understand what they're portraying there. That, like, this is a guy who has probably been faithful 100% and hasn't even thought about it. But also, and this is something that I can relate to. I can say 100%, like, I love my wife. Nothing could tempt me. Mm-hmm. Nobody's trying. It's real easy to stay faithful to you when nobody's actively trying to tempt me. It's like, it's like, like people who say, like, if the cops ever try to stop me for speeding, I'm just going to keep going. Like, yeah, buddy, go ahead. Let's see you do that. Like it's not hard to be a tough guy when nobody's trying to fight you.
Well, like, same. So
right.
We're perfect. Yeah.
So, like, on the one hand, I get it. Like, he is resisting and then messes up. And I think, as with all men or women, especially who are in a situation like his, where he seems to be the primary breadwinner, and she seems to be a stay-at-home mom in some capacity. It's hard to tell. I mean, she's the sister of the prime minister.
She's making papier-mâché lobsters,
right? So, lobster heads and all these things.
Yeah.
So in some case, she is assuming the vast majority of the parent duties.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize how good you've got it. Like, you're whatever they were 20 years into. I don't know if they say into this relationship, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it was they said, into this relationship, and like, all of a sudden, here you are in your 40s or 50s, and someone half your age is showing interest in you, and you're like, what?
How do I even do that? Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, they've got 2 kids, and they've got play dates and Christmas plays and lessons and this and that. And I imagine, like, romance is on the back burner, and
it's a working marriage. Like, it's a working relationship where they have divvied up the tasks amongst them, and they are hard at work at the dull business of running a family and keeping it together and raising kids. And none of that is exciting, and none of that feels new.
Yeah.
And it's the
phase of life that we are in right now, where you have to lean on your partnership, and the romance is not the primary motivator.
Right. And every time you leave the house, I'm afraid that you're going to find someone who is going to offer that to you, and you're going to go, what am I going home to over here? This hot Spanish guy just took his shirt off.
Okay, again, hot Spanish guy is not coming up to me. Right. No. Well, maybe, in my career as a, what is it, a stand-in on a porn movie, maybe I will.
You might.
Yeah. No.
No, he's not, I don't think that they're trying to make him sympathetic, but as someone who has been married for 15 years, I understand there's a point where that stuff falls away, where the romance falls away, and it feels like very much an arrangement that you have. Like, we're just trying to get through every single day, and most of them are the same until something catastrophic happens. Then we have to, run around with the chickens with the head cut off and all that. But yeah, it's boring. It's samey. We're just joined together in this partnership to complete a task, which is raising a kid to 18 years old. And then after that,
it is a season of life. Yes. And, like some seasons are less exciting than others. Well, yeah. And to your point, someone who doesn't have any of those responsibilities is offering herself to you. And you're like, well, wait, what? Yeah. And what I think is important to point out is, like, by many people's definition, he didn't cheat.
Sure. Oh, goodness.
Sorry.
You all right over there?
I mean, it's
right. Like, as far as we know, it was just a necklace.
It's what you might call an emotional affair.
Mm-hmm. And she even brings that up.
Yeah.
She's like, "What is it? A necklace? Is it a necklace and something else?"
Yeah. She says, "Is it a necklace and sex, a necklace and love?" Like, it's clearly not a necklace and love.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
Mia is. I wrote down is scary. Like, I don't want to be loved by her. I think that actress is doing exactly what she needs to do in that role.
looking like this young, taut, hot snack thing that would be attractive to a 45-year-old, 50-year-old Alan Rickman.
Anybody. I mean, like she's lovely, but she's also scary.
Oh yeah. And they do, everything's perfect. Like she has like a vampy haircut.
Yeah. Well, and you notice that she's not friendly with any women.
Sure.
Which is probably
always a sign.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I will say about his character is the Alan Rickman character that takes him away from being sympathetic and me being able to be like, I can understand what that must be like to struggle with, and makes me dislike him is that while he's buying the necklace for the wannabe mistress, he is also giving a thoughtful gift to his wife that is like a signal that he is paying attention and participating in their relationship. He gives her a Joni Mitchell CD, which it's the same size, and she mistakes it for the necklace until she opens it. So he is trying to be a good husband while also actively trying not to be a good husband.
So you think that's more deceptive?
Right. Which to me makes it worse. Like if they were just distant, and then he started flirting with another woman, that's one thing. But being distant while also, or flirting with another woman while also trying to be a thoughtful husband, those two character traits imply deceit, which then makes him less sympathetic to me because he's purposely trying to maintain the one relationship at home while also, because I think there's an inevitability to this relationship is no longer new and we can't figure out a way to maintain it. And that can happen on one part or both parts. But that's when people just grow apart. He is actively trying to keep that from happening while also trying to cheat.
He's trying to have it both ways.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and she is no fool. She notices Mia and notices that Mia is noticing Harry. And she says, be careful.
Right.
And that's all she says. But like, if you're smart, you know what that means, which is I see what's going on and stop it. And he doesn't. So, and at the end of the movie, he's coming back from a trip and you don't really know what their future is, but I think there's been some damage that's going to take some time to repair.
Yeah. I think that's a one that's, they could be separated already. Like it's hard to whether officially or, if we'll stay together for the kids, hard to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to tell.
Oh, wait, before we go, that character, that subplot is responsible for the introduction of the Rowan Atkinson salesman character, which we can't leave unmentioned. It's great.
Yes.
The way he's packaging up. So the first time he tries to buy the necklace, excuse me, Alan Rickman, he's sneaking. Like his wife they're both at the store together, but she's gone to do something else. She specifically says she's going to do boring parenting stuff or something along those lines.
Getting stuff for both of their mothers, I think.
Right. Yeah, like
Yeah. People, don't let your partner buy the gift for your mother unless your partner says, I have a great idea for your mother.
Right.
But that's tacky. Don't do that.
Yes,
anyway.
Yes. And anyway, then there's this whole very Rowan Atkinson. I feel like they just brought him in and they were like, here's the script. We've got these numbers of people that are like...
Find yourself a place in it.
Yeah, right. You got like 3 minutes. Write yourself a sketch that sockets into one of these storylines. Yeah. And that's what he did. I kind of
forget that he can speak.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, so much of what I've seen him in is like Blackadder and like Johnny English and all these
I just see him as Mr. Bean.
So. Sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah. And I think a lot of Americans would just know him as Mr. Bean, but I've seen him in so many other things over the years. But I know where you're coming from, like 100%. Like it's when you hear Larry the Cable Guy talking his regular voice in an interview and you're like, wait, what? Yeah. Like he's not? Well, okay. Where? What? Like the world feels artificial.
If I ever saw Teller talk, I would be like,
right. Yeah. Which you can. And I think he's been in several Coen Brothers movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's gold. And he pops up later in the movie too is just like a quick little distraction,
magical role.
Yeah, just like he's this just because the first time you can almost interpret that like if you want to interpret him as some sort of spirit of goodness in the Christmas season. He's taking so long to package this necklace that Rickman wants to buy for his potential adulteress. He has to abandon it. Yeah. So he has to then go back later and pick it up. And then later on, he just shows up to distract someone and then just conveniently leaves and sort of gives like a little knowing glance. Like, I'm sure somewhere. I was going to say, somewhere there's a theory that he is like, he's an elf or whatever.
Well, which then makes it worse that Rickman goes back and buys the necklace.
Right. Yeah, you would
premeditated.
You would hope that was little nudge, like that was enough. That was something cosmic trying to nudge him in the right direction. Yeah, and he didn't take it.
Anyway, okay. So the other storyline that gets people pretty upset, is the Keira Knightley and her husband and what is his name in The Walking Dead? Rick? I don't know.
Oh, somebody, is that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't even recognize him.
He's Andrew Lincoln is his name. He's the lead guy in The Walking Dead. And
I didn't recognize him.
Chiwetel, I can't say his last name, is her husband.
Yeah.
Walking Dead guy is the husband's best friend, and we open the movie at their wedding, and we think that he doesn't like the bride very much.
Right.
Turns out he's in love with her.
Madly.
Yeah. And after she's realized what he feels for her, he shows up at her door with these cards that says, blah, blah, to me, you're perfect. I will love you forever, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And she runs after him and she kisses him. And, that's it, which I feel like is meant to be here's your reward. And that's it, which is just weird. I can't see that as being a satisfying ending for everybody. And he walks away and he just says, enough, as if like, now I can put this crush to bed. I don't know. It's enough.
It's enough for now. Yeah. Like it's very cryptic.
It's all very odd. Yeah. And we see Juliet and Peter, her husband, together at the end of the movie. So it's not like she went back and said, I can't, I love so-and-so. So it's, right. I don't really get it. But part of me just like, you have unrequited love for somebody. I'm sorry, that is life.
Yeah.
Shut up. Don't tell her. Hide it.
Right. Well, but you get the idea that he's trying to.
Well, not
then
very
she sort of insinuates herself into the situation and finds out.
Yeah. I don't know.
Effectively.
I don't know. It just feels rather whiny to me. And
sure. Yeah. No, it's it's I don't know. It's sure it's not the first time. I imagine it happens frequently. It's very. I don't like it as a storyline. I feel like it's a very scummy thing. Like he should have gone out of his way to cover it up. Just the fact that he spent their entire wedding just filming her in tight close-up is creepy. Like he's stalkerish. The fact that he comes to the door with the signs, which I'm sure is supposed to be some kind of iconic moment of this movie, but instead is very creepy.
I thought that, had you not even seen that?
No.
As a trope? Okay.
No, it just seems very holding the radio over your head.
Yeah, no, it completely is. And it's strange.
It's weird. It is
not for me. That would not win me over.
Like he doesn't get his happy ending. He doesn't deserve a happy ending. Piss off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I wrote down, Mark, shut up.
Yeah. It's not like I even have have had some experience in my life, not me, but some relationship dynamics where things were not 100%. People have feelings. People like who they like. But like there are relationship dynamics where you got to say like, I've made my choice and this is the direction I'm going. Yeah. Yep. I don't like the kiss especially is puzzling. Yeah.
I don't.
It's the whole thing. I'm sure that was supposed to come off a certain way.
I'm sure it is. It is. And that's, when I talk about, messages that rom-coms send to women, like this is normal, this is desirable, this is, whatever. Yeah. Apparently that's what you're supposed to do when someone stalks you and forces their affection on you is go kiss them. It's just weird. And I'm not even angry about it. I'm just like, I don't understand that. What's the I don't get it.
And I think there's a better way to handle that storyline. Like, right up until the point where she finds the videotape, like he's handling it the right way. He is putting distance between them, and he has convinced her that he doesn't care for her. And, she's just being a decent human being, realizing, well, this is my husband's best friend, and I at least need him to, get along with me, and making an effort, only to find out, Yeah. And it's as red flaggy as the secretary. Yeah. Like in a different way, but to the same degree of like, oh, nope, that's not someone you want to associate
with. And oddly, he is the friend who has the art gallery.
Right, with the secretary.
So like they can go just bang and get it out of their system. And,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The one storyline that I do think is very sweet and funny is the Martin Freeman, and then Judy is the character's name. I don't know the actress's name. They're stand-ins for a porn, and so they have to stand there and simulate sex while everybody gets the lighting right.
Yeah, which is maybe one of the funniest things in this movie.
Yeah, like is that a real thing?
They take that sort of time on a porn movie.
Yeah,
I mean, on some of the higher budget stuff, sure, maybe.
Okay, please don't tell me how. I don't want to know any inside details of the porn industry.
I mean, I don't know that much. I've only directed 6 movies at this point.
Okay,
so
anyway. But it is sort of funny. They're like, we just want to see how the light hits your nipples. Like, yeah, that's very sweet detail. Yeah, and so they're naked at various points, and they're simulating sex, and and then I guess at the end of the shoot, he says, "Hey, would you like to go have a drink?"
Because they're having good conversations the whole time.
Yeah, and he's completely nervous about it, and he's very Martin Freeman, and he's adorable.
Oh, yeah.
And then they smooch at the end, and he jumps off, like he's walking her up to like, it's like a brownstone basically.
Yeah.
And he's walking down and he jumps off like the 3rd step. And every time I see that, I'm afraid that when he comes down, he's going to hit a patch of ice and fall and hit his head on the pavement. Every time, I'm afraid. And he doesn't.
Yeah, he hasn't yet.
No. Maybe next time he'll fall. I don't know. And then at the end of the movie, she's got a ring, and he says, "Oh, we can shag for real now." Ha ha. So yeah, they're very sweet. Like,
another pure comedy relief.
Yeah.
Set that are in there, and it works much better than the American Pie
Wisconsin.
Kid.
Yeah. No, and I'm rooting for them because they're just so like, neither of them is what you imagine when you think of people working on a porn set.
Right,
so you're just rooting for those 2 crazy kids. Although somebody does say, "Oh wait, yeah, how did you meet?" And they're like, yeah,
yes,
they're adorable. Okay, so let's see. I wrote down fat shaming ?
Right. Yeah.
Because this is something that a lot of people have. This is part of the backlash against this movie. And this is part of the Prime Minister's storyline. So Hugh Grant is the newly elected Prime Minister. The timeline of this movie is all very confusing.
Yeah. They very specifically enumerate the timeline of this, but okay, go ahead.
Right. But you're having someone's working in an office and getting married on the same day. Like, there's a lot of things that look like they're intended to be on the same day that don't really add up. And then someone's wearing the same outfit on 2 different days. And, but also the Prime Minister elections are in May, not in November when this starts. So there's trust me, I've seen this enough times. The timeline is wonky. Anyway, and he's moving into 10 Downing Street and meets his staff and meets Natalie, who is just, charming and imperfect from the beginning.
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh fuck," and just
curses to the Prime Minister.
Yeah. And he's taken with her, and then there's this interlude where the U.S. president, played by Billy Bob Thornton,
right,
who to me reads as a Clinton analog,
right? It was,
but apparently was supposed to be a little bit George Bush too.
Yeah, it's tough because this movie was probably written when Clinton was still, like, I can imagine the first draft of this being like 99, 2000.
Yeah.
And then, doesn't get made till 2002.
And then they were like, "Billy Bob, tone down the twang. He's not Southern anymore." He is borderline assaulting Natalie. And then
putting the moves on her.
Yeah. And then Hugh Grant has a speech that is portrayed as this victory for Britain, but I'm just like, you just talked a lot of shit at a press conference. I don't really see what that did, but okay, sure.
Well, I think the way I took that was that, the previous administration had been subservient to the U.S. and his cabinet or advisors were signaling that he should be more, a little more forceful with them. And he was like, no, now's not the time. And then because the president flirted with a girl he was sweet on, he decided to,
But then, like, what does that do in actual policy? I was just,
but anyway. If nothing else, it showed, like he says in the speech, that they're a big country too. Like it isn't anything substantive, but it's a statement that then would need to be followed up with like policies and stuff. But it is a signal that Britain's posture is going to change when dealing with the U.S.
Well, sure. Well, I think in real life, you would need to follow up that statement with, and that's why we're going to blah, 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 blah. And they don't.
I don't know. But also I imagine like I can put myself in the mindset of a pre 9/11 British citizenry who are maybe tired of being little brother to the U.S. and all these sorts of, things, or even a post 9/11 who just followed us to Afghanistan in 2003 here and are, tired of being led around by the short hairs, if you will, by their bigger American brother.
Well,
so, I could see how that would be, like Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall. Yeah. What did we do after that? Anyway. It's talking tough. And a lot of times that sells, that puts people at
So
ease.
Apparently this movie was originally conceived of as two separate ones, and the Hugh Grant storyline was going to be its own movie, and then the Colin Firth storyline was going to be its own movie. And I guess someone was like, no, let's do one of those ensemble things, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think both of those I would have liked them to be explored in a little more detail. I don't know if I see those as movies on their own, but
yeah, I want like 10 minutes more for each of those. Yeah. Not 90 minutes total of each of them. I want like 45 minutes, anyway, 50 minutes for each of them.
Anyway, so, but I guess after realizing that he has feelings for Natalie, he says, can you have her transferred somewhere else where I don't have to see her? Right. And he's talking with his chief of staff and he says, Natalie. And she says, oh, the chubby girl.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he says,
so are we calling that chubby?
Call her chubby because she's,
she's not.
I don't think. And the woman says, oh yeah, huge ass. Yeah. Real big thighs. And I'm like, I don't. And he says, oh, whatever. We'll just.
Also, like, this woman saying this line, not skinny.
She's not fat either.
She's like, not. No, she's not either. But I'm saying like, she's not a size 0.
Well, that's true. I would say Keira Knightley is of the size that you would expect to be, nothing against Keira Knightley. She's lovely. She does not do any fat shaming in this movie or ever that I know of. But
Right.
So people call out that, but part of I don't know. Sometimes when people call out stuff, I'm like, you are taking this totally out of context. Like, okay, sure, fine, whatever. Later, they get together, and she's meeting him at the airport, and she sees him, and she runs and she jumps on him, and he says, "Oh God, you weigh a lot," and she says, "Oh, shut your face." Well, it's clearly to me delivered in good humor, and she laughs, and like when someone jumps on you, you're. So I don't know. That does not bother me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
And I think it is like, I can understand why like women who are like size 8 or 10 or whatever this woman is, like not large by any means, not shopping in the plus size section by any means. I can see why women of that size would look at that portrayal and like them going, oh, she's just, it's like, pick a movie like She's All That, or look at those overalls. Like they do a great parody of it in Not Another Teen Movie. Like the overalls, the glasses, her ponytail, like
she's got paint on them.
Like she's hideous. Yeah. Like no, like nothing about this woman is fat. No. And I do think it says a lot about what's wrong with expectations that are put before young women.
Yeah.
That that people are saying this woman is fat. Like it's crazy that they're saying that.
Well, there is a little more when we're talking about Aurelia's sister. So Aurelia is the woman that Colin Firth falls in love with, and they have a language barrier. So I don't understand. He is in France writing a book, and she's his like housekeeper.
Well, can we just talk about the fat shaming? Because you're gonna go down a whole and then that's the fat shame like 5 minutes from now.
Sure. Well, why don't you do it then?
She has a fat sister, and they call her fat.
Yeah.
Like me, I'm a fat person. I don't have any problem with the term fat. I wouldn't say I've taken it back.
But if someone called you Mr. Dunkin' Donuts,
right, 2003,
I was like, that's unnecessary.
That's a little much. But like, she's larger, and it's played for jokes. Yeah, that's like.
Well, and I think she's, whether intentionally or not, she's homely.
Sure,
and it's implied that nobody wants her.
I mean, she's basically what's her name from Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
She's what's her name from the Australian movie.
Yeah.
Muriel. Yeah. Yeah. She's whatever. Like pick one.
Yeah.
She's any woman who is just like, oh, who would want this cow? Yeah. Like it's just ridiculous.
At one point, Aurelia says, she turns down some food and she says, oh no, if you saw my sister, you'd understand why. And I'm just like, that's not even what?
This is a lot. So George Carlin has this great thing, and this comes up anytime some comedian gets in trouble and yells PC, police or whatever, cancel culture. He talks about punching down. Like, it's not funny to punch down. Yeah. Like it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be the aim of a comedian to punch down. Yeah. Good comedy punches up at those who are privileged, at those who are who should be doing better. Yep. They don't punch down at the people who are already suffering. Mm-hmm. You don't punch down. You don't punch down to the gays or the trans or the amputees or the whatever, like the paraplegics. Like that's lazy comedy to punch down at fat people or disfigured people from burns or whatever. Like that's just lazy, bad comedy. And it's the same here as it is anytime it happens.
Yeah. Well, and I think you notice when, and this is speaking outside of the movie, but very often the most insulting thing that a man can say to a woman is to imply that nobody wants to have sex with her.
Right.
In some way, oh, you're ugly, blah, 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 and one way to do that is to call her fat, which is so twisted on so many. I can't even begin to parse that. Yeah. But you don't have value as a person because I don't want to have sex with you. Like,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So. And I would take far more offense to the treatment of the sister. Yeah. Versus the Hugh Grant what's the lady's name? Natalie. Yeah. Much more to that storyline. Although I just think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous every time in a movie, like I said, where she has glasses, she's a size 8, whatever. Yeah. And therefore fat.
I don't
like that actress is hot.
She really is. She's lovely. Yeah, no, she is. But I feel like if someone jumps on me and puts all their body weight on me, I'm going to be like,
exactly. Like that's a normal thing.
No matter how much they weigh. Yeah. I do that with our 11-year-old who is less than 100 pounds, and that's not.
I can understand where context clues should tell you whether or not that person is making a fat joke or just going, oof, you're heavy. And I think the context clues here would lead you towards fat joke, but also his character had clearly demonstrated that he doesn't consider her to be fat. Right. So,
and
it's hard to say.
Oftentimes when you have these, movies that we love that are kind of problematic, I'm kind of like, did a bot do this? Like they just sometimes looked for the word fat, and I'm like, but which is not to say that that people can't be offended by that. Like, okay, I'm willing to listen to people who can tell me why it's offensive, but that part is the least of my concern.
Sure. I think to me, the thing that's more offensive about this movie is the fact that so many and I get it's a movie and you've got to portray what you've got to portray in the time, but every single male and female that meet in this movie are destined for some kind of romantic relationship. Like this portrayal of there is no possibility for a male and a female to just be friends. Although they reference that some males and females, like the scary secretary and the gallery guy, are friends. Everybody here, every male is looking at the female in their life as a conquest. Like there's no
that's
platonic relationships.
That's a good point, because I was writing out all the types of love that there are, and there are non-romantic relationships, but they're like between the rock star and his manager.
And
Emma Thompson and Liam Neeson are friends, but that that's not really
that's why I say like there's some reference. And I think the rock star, the Bill Nighy thing, like that's the most progressive thing this movie does, is show that like this rock star who's been making fun of his manager the whole time realizes like, hey, this
also
is the only,
calling him fat, by the way.
Also fat shaming him.
Yeah.
That realizes like, hey, this is the only guy that's ever been there through it all. He was there when I was a big star, and now that I'm back again, all these people who've shunned me for 20 years, Elton John and whoever else's party I'm getting invited to, now they're calling back. But this guy's been by my side the whole time, and he's my real family. I love him in a platonic friendship way. And, he like, this is the guy I should be spending my Christmas with. I
think he does a rather ham-fisted job of communicating all that.
I think he does exactly what his character would do.
And his friend understands, though. And, and then, of course, what's he say? He says, let's get shit-faced and watch porn, which is probably like the ultimate bonding activity.
Yeah, I wish I could do a Bill Nighy impersonation.
I feel like
this a great voice.
I feel like this was the first thing that I saw him in. So now I see him in other things where he's this very sober, somber character, and I'm just like, wait a minute. At some point, he's going to turn out to be a perv.
This is the exception to his catalog. First time I saw him was probably Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where he plays a character. I didn't know who he was as an actor, but he shows up at this pivotal moment in the movie to give the characters like a choice, and I just immediately was like, I don't trust this guy. This guy's 1000% untrustworthy. Like he just comes off as you're just waiting for him to turn. Yeah. And then of course he plays Davy Jones in possibly his best role ever. He plays Davy Jones in the Pirates of the Caribbean, the second movie, I think. You got Alan Rickman in here. Yeah. Which again, another guy. I wish I had a good impersonation. When people have good Alan Rickman impersonations, they're just really good. I wouldn't even try.
The only Alan Rickman I can do is I'm going to cut your heart out with a spoon, which is not even very good. It's more just relishing saying the line more than anything else.
Yeah, no, yeah, you get if you can do it, you get a lot of miles out of yippee-ki-yay, like all that, like give it Mr. Falcon. Yeah. You get the whole deal. Like, I wish I could do either one of those guys. Like, give me one.
I could do 10 points from Gryffindor. That's not right. That was a little bit of Maggie Smith there. I don't know.
A little bit. Mr. Potter.
Mr. Potter.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just spend the next 10 minutes trying to get our Alan Rickman impression.
Right. That's what people tune in for, is the really bad impressions that we do.
Up to
and bad accents.
Potter.
Yeah. And I have heard people comment on that is like the purest love in the movie between
and
the two.
Very progressive, and 2003 and but Colin Firth.
Yeah. So they fall in love somehow despite. So he's in France and she's a housekeeper. She's Portuguese.
This is after he finds out that his brother is having sex with his girlfriend.
Right. Immediately dumps the girlfriend, which, good, because what else can you do?
Like you do.
And so he's in France writing this book, and there's some, I guess he does this periodically, and because the property manager or whatever is like, oh, do you have company this time? He says, no, situation changed. And the housekeeper, Aurelia, is Portuguese and doesn't speak French, which seems like a requirement to go work in France.
Maybe. I mean, that's another one of those things where I bet that makes perfect sense over there. I bet that's just okay. I bet that's just seasonal workers come in from, surrounding.
Well, but then, so they, as you do in movies, I guess, they develop a bond and fall in love, even though they can't really communicate. And she kisses him before he has to go back to England for Christmas, and she's going,
back home.
She kisses him. And then he realizes, oh my gosh, I love her, and my family are a bunch of dicks.
Sure.
he comes to the house. His brother is there, by the way. I looked in the background. The brother is there for Christmas, and he comes in and is like, "Hey, wait, guess what? I'm going." And his niece and his nephews in the background going, "I hate Uncle Jamie." Like, I don't know why, but okay. Sure.
I mean, he did leave the presents. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, he took him with him. I know.
Oh, I thought he left him. Okay.
I was, yeah. Well, although he was bringing. In the trunk of his car, he's putting like bottles of wine and big old things of garlic.
Yeah.
So I don't.
I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, here you go to the beach, you come back with a airbrush T-shirt that says, Spring Break 1984, like that has a monster truck on it, or like a Bad Sunset. Like, when you're visiting France, what do you bring back?
Is that a thing?
Garlic and real champagne.
I don't know. I guess
from Champagne.
Yeah. So. Anyway,
glove.
Anyway, so he realizes, oh my gosh, I don't like my family, and he goes, to Aurelia. Okay, except he's landing at the airport in Marseille.
I don't know.
South of France, on the Mediterranean. That is not Portugal. That's really far from Portugal. You'd have to go all the way across Spain.
Do we know that he goes to Portugal?
Well, he ends up at her house.
Right, but are they all immigrants there?
In which case, really, why does she not speak French? And he is learning
again, like
Portuguese.
I think this is one of those things where, like,
we have just thought about it more than anybody else. I know.
But like you were saying about the, soda versus pop, like someone who's coming to work here for the summer doesn't immediately stop saying pop from Illinois, doesn't immediately stop saying pop. Like, maybe that's just a thing. Maybe there are large communities of immigrant workers who just keep their culture and their language. I don't know. Like,
he's learned enough Portuguese to
in like
ask
4 weeks or 3 weeks.
Well, yeah. Again, like you don't learn a language in 4 weeks. You don't learn to play the drums in 4 weeks. Yeah, but
well, you could. In fairness, that kid could learn the beat to that song and learn that entire song in 3 weeks. I'm confident.
There are a lot of things. But anyway,
you don't become basically conversational in Portuguese.
No. Well, that is the joke. He's really not.
He's not, and it is funny because you get the idea that he is speaking in ways that are very, because they're translating it, and he's using words that are not clearly that a native speaker wouldn't choose, which I think is a really nice touch. It's the kind of thing where it's the difference between saying something is cool in English and saying it's cold. I
want to say I heard someone discussing this movie on a different podcast, and for some reason their DVD or whatever of it didn't have his translations.
Wow. Okay.
So
that's pretty good.
They didn't get any of the jokes. They didn't understand what he was saying. Like, they got it, but it's
that's weird.
So anyway, she has been learning a little bit of English.
Yeah.
And she says, yes, my answer is yes, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And then the best gag is everyone around her goes, what did you say? In Portuguese, what did you say? Because she answers him in English. Yeah. And they're all like, what? And then she has to answer in Portuguese also.
Yeah. And then everyone kisses him, and she's acting like, I don't know what they're doing. I'm like, these people, don't they do it to everybody? Okay, sure.
Don't they do it to every Englishman who comes to sweep you off your feet?
Yeah. Anyway.
At this Italian restaurant that you work in France?
Yeah. So, and by the way, so he goes to her house first, and that's when he meets the sister, that's when we have all this, blah, blah, blah.
Also, the dad is like a fat slob. Yeah. So, like, just, who is he to talk?
Don't you know, Dave, only men are allowed to get fat.
That is true.
Women need to keep
That's how it's worked in our relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, anyway. I think theirs is definitely like the most romantic comedy, pure, like, and I could totally see that as a standalone movie. I don't know if there's enough there to make a standalone movie. So, maybe it was smart to do it this way, but it's the most sort of, like princess swept off feet kind of romantic comedy thing.
Colin Firth does the whole befuddled in love thing very well. Like, I shouldn't love you, but I do. You must allow me to tell you how desperately I love you. That's from Pride and Prejudice, in case you don't know. I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I don't really want to. What? I'm told I would love it.
What?
I know.
That seems out of character. Like, if I was writing up like a one sheet on you as a character in a movie, one of the lines would be, has definitely read Pride and Prejudice.
I know. Well, that's the, my mom loved all those books and had multiple copies of each one and could, as you know, could probably recite whole passages from Pride and Prejudice. And she was horrified that I did not. I've tried. I just
to say you've done it.
I'm trying. Well, Dad says the same thing. He's just like, he tried. He says, for your mom, I tried, but he couldn't do it.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, I think that is a thing, like you've got to, the thing is that the solution to that problem is to come up with a podcast where the spouse or child or whatever doesn't have a choice but to enjoy the thing that you enjoy. Like, for instance, this great podcast.
Can you see my mom doing a podcast?
Oh man, that would be great.
No, well, too late.
That would be great.
Too late. Anyway, where were we? I don't even know.
Colin Firth.
Yeah, there was fat shaming in that storyline. And the rest of it, I'm like, okay, sure, fine. Like, I don't buy that relationship works at all, but it's sweet and they're lovely people. And,
And
whatever.
again, like, this is 20 years ago, basically. Like, if you think about when this was written, like, films take time to get released. Just came out in 2003. Like, there's no chance that this was not already at least written down on the page in 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Like, this is 20 years old. Like, this is a 20-year-old movie. Like, just think about the stuff that in the year 2003 from like the 80s would have been problematic, like a ton of it. Yeah. Just like it is now.
I don't think the storyline's problematic. I just think
no. I mean, just like attitudes change, like just things change. Sometimes it's little things like the sheer amount of people that are smoking in movies from the 60s and 70s everywhere all the time, or whatever. But, things change, attitudes change. Like, just watching some of these older movies now, when we watch them and people use all these different slurs that, around Asians or homosexuality or whatever. And you're like, wow. Yeah. And then you're like, oh yeah, right. Like that was, 30 years ago. That's how that was.
Okay. So last story is Liam Neeson as the widower and his stepson. It takes a while to explain this, but Sam is his stepson, and then Sam's mother has recently died, and Sam's biological father, we don't even, so
out of the picture.
I kind of don't really know why it was necessary for it to be a stepson. I don't know. I don't know if it matters.
I think that's that whole relationship with him encouraging him. I think that's about them building their love, because like it or not, like this is this kid's dad now. Yeah. And I think they needed something to bond over, because previously the only thing connecting them was the mother, who's now gone. Yeah. So they needed something to solidify their father-son relationship going forward. And I think getting this little kid to, quote, find love is the thing that solidifies their relationship. Yeah. So,
and the kid is, I don't know, 10, 11-ish. And it's funny. He says at one point, like, I'm sad about mom, but I also am this other thing, and it's interesting how, kids and grief is different than adults and grief, because Liam Neeson is clearly like just gutted by the loss of his wife. It seemed like it was to cancer or something like that.
Yeah, something tragic.
Where Sam is like, yes, that sucked, and I'm very sad, but I also have the rest of my life and I'm falling in love. Yeah. And
also he's like, I was in love before she died. Like he's just like, hey, I had this problem already. Yeah. And then this happened. I'm still sad about the problem that I had. Yeah. And the sad thing that happened.
It's a girl at school who doesn't know his name, and blah, 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 blah. And she's American, and she's going back to America, and so he's got his chance. He needs to get her to notice him, and that's all it's going to take. And it's very like, I wrote down puppy love. Like that's clearly what it is.
Well, and it's very hopeful and all this, sort of stuff.
And it's funny now. So our son is about this age and has no interest in romance, by the way. No. But watching how Liam Neeson responds to all of Sam's ideas with nothing but enthusiasm, even though they are crazy.
Yeah, crazy ideas. Yeah.
Sam's like, girls like musicians, right? So I'm going to learn to play an instrument. And Liam Neeson's like, well,
at first he's like, that's it. Perfect. It's the perfect idea. Yeah. And then he does the parent thing. Yeah. Yeah. Like, and I think that's something important to remember. Yeah. Is like, show some enthusiasm. And I catch myself doing that all the time with our son, where I realize like I want to be truthful with him about how this might not work, but also I need to be enthusiastic and like trying to train myself to do that. Like,
it's a fine line.
That's an awesome idea. Yeah. And then
have you considered?
There's the one problem though.
Yes.
You don't actually play any instruments.
Yes. Have you considered that you are allergic to shellfish? Right. So that's not but I love it. And if not for that thing.
Prawn eating contest is how I'm going to win the girl.
Yeah. Like, well, don't, yeah. There's, so I find it odd. Like, so this is like a month between when his wife dies and when he's romancing Claudia Schiffer. Like, okay, and that's also just like meant to be funny, but also it's an
ongoing joke between the wife. You could tell it had been an ongoing joke between them, and I think it's supposed to read as like endearing, funny, you know, because there's no chance she's ever going to show up.
But then she does at the end.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like, there's no chance she's ever going to just show up.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. As I am much more intimately familiar with what grieving looks like now than I was this time last year, and I'm like, it's not funny. So I think that's Love Actually, everybody. Do we miss anything? I feel like we could not possibly have missed anything. That was pretty exhaustive.
We got everything I care to get.
Yeah. I don't know. I like this movie. Yes, 20 years on, there's some stuff that makes you go, ugh, but it's not unlike Christmas. Enjoyable, even if slightly problematic. So
sure.
It's a good time for the year. But anyway, folks, we would love to know what you think. Are you as convinced as I am that Carl is trash? Or are you a Carl apologist? Are you a Mia apologist? Do you have a character that you think we've done dirty today and you'd like to defend them? Drop us a line. You can either tweet at us or you can send us an email. Our handle is the same at Twitter and Gmail. It's YSMY Podcast, YSMY for You Show Me Yours. So tweet at us or send us an email and explain why Carl should be redeemed. I will disagree with you, but we'd love to hear from you anyway. And you, let's see, we have new episodes every other Wednesday. So every 2 weeks, you can look for a new episode on most of your major podcast providers, specifically Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And while you're there getting the latest, we would love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe. Or, just tell your friends about us. Share an episode here or there. Look through our back catalog. We've got, some good stuff there. Just the more people you tell about us, the better. Share the love. This is the time of year when we share things. So share us. Dave's like, what? Why would they do that? I don't understand it. And then speaking of our next episode in 2 weeks, what is our next episode going to be, Dave?
Weird Al's magnum opus, UHF.
Oh boy. Okay.
The parody classic. The someone said, what if a Weird Al album was a movie?
What is it parodying?
Just a television.
Everything.
Mostly television. I mean, it's UHF, so they own he comes into management of a UHF television station and hilarity ensues. For those of you who don't know what UHF is,
I feel like you might need to explain that.
It's a band of television that people used to be able to broadcast over, and because it was cheaper to broadcast on, you got a lot more amateur, less professional television broadcasts. So lots of local stations where there was a guy who introduced bad drive-in movies and did comedy shows and just really bad stuff.
If I recall, the UHF was everything above channel 13. Is that about right? We had a very old TV when I was little, and the main channels were like 2 through 13, and then everything else was on a different dial.
Yeah,
I don't know why it cut off at 13, but
that's just how it works. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's technically it has to do with frequencies and radio waves and all sorts of things. But
just the idea of channels having numbers is just like, I haven't thought about what channel is anything on.
What number is this channel?
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So 2 weeks, Weird Al Yankovic, who is, I think, somebody that at the time I would not have appreciated, but now I very much do. So, with age, he's gotten better, or have I gotten better? I don't know.
Yes, I think you've gotten better.
Possibly, yeah. So anyway, in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about Weird Al and UHF. So until then, thanks for listening. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io.